Alrighty, so today we're going to be having a look at interpreting relationships between variables. So we've looked at how to describe them, and we're going to actually interpret it back into a real-world application. So Erica owns a strawberry farm. She's collecting data to see if there's a relationship between the amount of direct sun and the diameter of her strawberries. Diameter is the distance across, so it means they're bigger. She's exposed different plants to different hours in direct sunlight. All plants are then placed in some shade to make up the total of the 12 hours of sunlight. She gathered the following data after measuring the strawberries and taking the mean diameter. So the amount of direct sunlight per day, hours 1 up to 10, and mean diameter of strawberries went up to 43, it looks like. And you can see that there's quite a nice graph there. And so the first thing is determine which is the independent variable and which is the dependent variable. First thing to do is to look at the graph. Now the graph will almost always have the independent along the x-axis and the dependent along the y-axis. That's a very common thing to do, but we can also look at it logically. Does the amount of sunlight affect how big the strawberries are, or does how big the strawberries affect how many hours of sunlight it got? Well, in my head, this affects this. The amount of hours is going to affect how big the strawberries are. So really quickly, we can write down what the independent variables are. Alright, it looks like a part B. Describe any correlation in terms of positive or negative, linear or non-linear, strong, moderate, weak, or none. Alrighty, pointing up to the right, that would be positive. It's also quite tightly packed together, so I'd be saying that it is strong, and you can also see that it's quite clearly linear. So we would have in total positive, strong, positive, linear. Alright, that just leaves us with part C. So interpret the relationship between the amount of sunlight and the diameter of the strawberries and explain what it means for the strawberry vine. Well, it means that a positive relationship means that as one thing increases, so does the other. Therefore, as the number of hours of sunlight increase, or as the hours of sunlight increase, so too will the diameters of the strawberries get bigger. And because it's strong, it means that these are greatly affecting each other, where these are very strongly correlated. Alrighty, so we can clearly say that there is quite a strong relationship between these two variables here. Alright, there's one question on the next page before moving on to the next example. Alrighty, Ty is a deputy of a school and is noticing a relationship between students' absences and their grades. He's created the following scatter plot and the line of best fit from the data. Determine which is the independent variable and which is the dependent. So the question is, does absences affect your grade, or does grade affect your absences? And you can see the fact that it was written here on the x-axis. It's clear that the author believes that the independent variable is absences, while the dependent variable is grade. Alrighty, so let's describe any correlation in terms of positive, negative, linear or non-linear, strong, moderate, weak. Alrighty, so pointing down to the right, that's negative. It is linear, it's a pretty straight line, and it's also quite strong. Points are very close to the line all the way around. So in total, we would get a strong, negative, linear relationship. Alrighty, so now we've got to interpret the relationship between the number of days absent and the grades achieved. Well, a negative relationship means that as the independent variable goes up, the dependent variable goes down, which we can see in the graph. As this increases, this decreases. Alrighty, so in this case it says that as the absentees goes up, the grade will go down. So as the absences days go up, the grade percent goes down. In part D, explain how the deputy might use this information. Well, this would be very handy for students to realize that as you are away more often, then you are going to suffer your results. So he might use this to share to his students to encourage them to make sure they're attending school more often. So he might show this to students or parents with low attendance to avoid high absent numbers. Alrighty, so that's the end of that example. There are questions on the next couple of pages, and then we'll be moving on. Answers are at the back of each chapter, so if you want to have a look at those. Alrighty, see you next time.